That's it.
Sorry, I'm Councillor Mike Kennedy. I represent a ward in Burgess Hill.
Hi, I'm Councillor Mushtaq from Burgess Hill. I'm from Dunstall Ward. Thank you.
I am Michael Keng. I'm the agent from Licensing Matters, representing the premises licence holder and DPS and premises in this matter.
Hi, I'm the Bharat Patel. I'm a license holder and DPS.
Hi, I'm Pinky Patel, DPS license holder.
I'm Peter Aston from West Sussex Trading Standards Service. John Bryant, your Senior Licensing Officer.
Lucy Corrie, Assistant Director, Communities.
Nathan Mountney, Legal Advisor to the panel.
Okay, right hand, right, we'll start again. Anyway, I'm Councillor Janice Inwood. I'm chairman of this particular meeting today. First of all, to receive any apologies for absence. Do I have any apologies? No? To receive any declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda? Do I have any?
No.
No? The procedure the licensing panel will follow in considering the application is set out in the Licensing Act 2003. Its attendant regulations and was agreed by the Licensing Committee on 2nd February 2005. The licensing panel, in accordance with Rule 14 of the Licensing Act 2003 hearings, Regulations 2005, decide to exclude the public from all or part of the hearing where the licensing panel considers that it is in the interest of the public to do so. So if we can start now, please, by Mr. Bryan, if you will introduce this agenda for us, please.
Thank you, Chair, members. The report before you this afternoon is in respect of a review submitted by West Sussex Trading Standards for the review of a premises licence. In summary, an application which is attached to Appendix 1 to your papers, pursuant to Section 51 of the Licensing Act 2003, has been made by Trading Standards for the review of a premises licence, namely at Londis Mini Market, 65 Lingfield Road, East Grinstead. The grounds for the review relate to the licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm. The review cites the sale of alcohol to a child during a test purchase operation conducted by Trading Standards on the 8th of February 2023. It also details their subsequent inquiries into the incident within their evidence pack, and two further responsible authorities, Sussex Police and West Sussex County Council Public Health, have also submitted representations in support of the review application. Now, the panel must determine this matter on the evidence presented to it during the hearing, having due regard to the Licensing Act of 2003, the Mid-Sussex District Council licensing policy, and the Home Office guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. So the background to this matter is the premises concerned is at 65 Lingfield Road. It's currently known as Londis Mini Market. It's also been referred to, I think, as Anish Mini Market as well. It's been licensed for the sale of alcohol for consumption off the premises since November 2014 under this licence number PWA 0494. And a number of family members are all partners of the Londis Anish's Mini Market. At the time of the incidents referred to within the review application submitted, the DPS was a Mrs. Manjul bin Patel, and the DPS was changed on the 22nd of February to Mrs. Pinky Patel, who's present here. The current premises licence and the current conditions are attached at Appendix 2, and the premises is currently licensed for the sale by retail of alcohol for consumption off of the premises, Monday to Saturday 8 till 11 p.m. and Sunday 10 a.m. till 10:30 p.m. And I've set out the current opening hours for the premises within the report, which are slightly at variance to the alcohol area hours. The premises operates as a local convenience store and is in East Grinstead on Lingfield Road, which is a mainly residential area. and there are photos of the store which are attached at Appendix 3, which I will take the panel through at the end of the report. There are several additional conditions attached to the licence in addition to the mandatory licence conditions. These include an age verification policy set at a minimum of 25 years, which means that anyone attempting to buy alcohol who appears to be under the age of 25 will be asked for a photographic ID to prove their age. The conditions detail the forms of ID that are accepted. Signage relating to the challenge policy will be displayed in prominent locations and shall include the point of sale. It details staff training in respect of underage sales, and also details that the premises shall maintain and operate a sales refusals law. West Sussex Trading Standards have applied for the review of the premises based on the sale of alcohol to a child which took place during a test purchase in operation they conducted on the 8th of February 2023. They cite that they have previously received information regarding underage sales of vapes and that they made an advice visit to the store in August 2022 when they spoke to Mr. Bharat Patel, one of the owners, regarding the sale of age-restricted products. They provided advice to ensure staff were correctly trained, and a copy of the advice was provided to Mr. Patel. It was on the 8th of February 2023 that Mr. Patel sold alcohol to a child at the store. When the officer spoke to Mr. Patel just after the failed test purchase, he stated that the sale of alcohol was due to his attention being focused on a large energy bill he had just received rather than the customer he was serving. Further questions were put by the responsible authority, Trading Standards, to Mr. Patel, who was the representative of the partnership, and he again explained the sale of alcohol was due to his attention on the large energy bill he received. He added that all the training is done verbally to all shop employees, and there was no written record of the training at that time. Trading Standards therefore contend that they do not believe the licensing objectives are being continually upheld, and that there was a failure of the management to promote the licensing objectives, and they consider that the review of the premises licence was necessary in order to limit further criminal activity and to act as a deterrent against such illegal conduct. As underage advice had been provided before the sale of alcohol was made to a volunteer, they suggest that the appropriate outcome for the review would be a suspension of the premises licence for 3 months. You'll find at Appendix 4 full details of the Trading Standards investigation. Sussex Police have submitted representations in support of the application on the same licensing objectives. Those are attached at Appendix 5, and in their representation they state they're particularly concerned that in this case alcohol was sold to a child during the test purchase exercise. And they note that prior to the test purchase, advice was given to the management by Trading Standards. Following the test purchase operation, the police licensing officer visited the premises and made the following observations. The CCTV was working, correct date and time was displayed. However, no member of staff apart from the store manager could operate the CCTV. There wasn't a DPS authorisation forms available. To clarify for the panel, that's a form where the DPS authorises members of his staff who may not be holders of a personal alcohol licence to sell alcohol on their behalf. They state that no signage advertising the age verification was displayed, no training records were available, and no refusals or instant documentation was produced. They also recommend to the committee that they consider a suspension of 3 months as appropriate in this case. In addition to the suspension of the premises licence, the police also invite the committee to update the current premises licence conditions by adding more modern conditions. The schedule of those conditions are attached at Appendix 6. I haven't received any information as to whether or not the premises licence holder would accept those conditions being attached to the licence or have any comment on those conditions being added to the licence. But this may well be something which his legal advisor addresses the panel with during their submissions. West Sussex Public Health have also submitted representations in support of the application on the same grounds, and they are attached in full at Appendix 7. They state in their representation that the sale of alcohol to children is of extreme concern considering the strong evidence demonstrating the harms caused by alcohol to children and young people. They also highlight the fact that the premises have had an advice visit from Trading Standards prior to the test purchase. They also note that they're concerned that the seller of the alcohol to a child is also responsible for training other members of staff in the Challenge 25 policy and doesn't appear to be maintaining the high standards required to promote the licensing objectives. They also note that it's disappointing that despite the previous advice by Trading Standards, alcohol was sold to a child, and they state that this suggests that the premises is not taking seriously their responsibility to uphold the licensing objectives. Their representation goes on to highlight the effect of alcohol-specific hospital admissions in respect of under 18s, and they're supportive of the recommendation of Trading Standards to suspend the premises licence for 3 months, as they state that this will provide sufficient time for staff retraining, and they also invite the committee to consider additional conditions which are also outlined in Appendix 6. At this point, I will just draw your attention to Appendix 8, which I believe was forwarded to yourselves within the last couple of days, which very helpfully is information supplied by the premises licence holders' legal advisor. I'm sure that the legal advisor will take the panel through the various items of the document, which runs to 46 pages. But the items I would point out to yourselves there are the result of a test purchase carried out by the National Lottery on underage sales. Also included is the utility bill, which was mentioned by the premises licence holder during the incident and afterwards to Trading Standards, and also helpfully, which I will go through to the panel, a number of points within the Section 182 statutory guidance. Going back to the report, legal context is the review has been applied for under Section 51(1) of the Licensing Act. Section 52 deals with the determination of the review, and I would ask that if the panel have any legal questions surrounding either of those sections, that you address them to Mr. Mountney, who's present, to provide you with legal advice. The licensing objectives. The Licensing Act 2003 requires representations to address the 4 licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, the promotion of public safety, the prevention of a public nuisance, and the prevention of harm to children and young persons. Within the report, I've highlighted various parts of the Section 182 guidance, which the panel will be aware of. In particular, 2.34, where it states that licensing authorities should give considerable weight to representations about child protection matters. In addition to the responsible authority, whose functions relate directly to child protection, the Director of Public Health may also have access to relevant evidence to inform such representations. These representations may include, amongst other things, the use of health data about the harms that alcohol can cause underage drinkers. Where a responsible authority or other person presents evidence to the licensing authority linking specific premises with harms to children, this evidence should be considered, and the licensing authority should also consider what action is appropriate to ensure that this licensing objective is effectively enforced. At 11.10 of the statutory guidance, where authorised persons and responsible authorities have concerns about problems identified at a premises, it is good practice for them to give the licence holders early warning of their concerns and the need for improvement. And where possible, they should advise the licence or certificate holder of the steps they need to take to address those concerns. A failure by the holder to respond to such warnings is expected to lead to a decision to apply for a review. Cooperation at local level in promoting the licensing objective should be encouraged, and review should not be used as to undermine this cooperation. For representations in relation to variations to be relevant, they should be confined to the subject matter of the variation, There is no requirement for a responsible authority or other person to produce a recorded history of problems at the premises. The 2003 Act does provide a range of powers for the licensing authority, which it may exercise in determining a review where it considers them appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Section 1117 details about issuing an informal warning, but it states it's expected that the licensing authorities will regard informal warnings as an important mechanism for ensuring the licensing objectives are effectively promoted, but then goes on to caveat, however, where responsible authorities, such as the police or environmental health officers, have already issued warnings requiring improvement, either orally or in writing, or have failed as part of their own stepped approach to address concerns, licensing authorities should not merely repeat that approach, and should take this into account when considering what further action is appropriate. Where the licensing authority considers that action under its statutory powers is appropriate, it may take any of the following steps. Modify the conditions of the premises licence, which includes adding new conditions or altering or omitting an existing condition. Excluding a licensable activity from the licence. Removing the designated premises supervisor because they consider the problems are as a result of the poor management. With regard to that, I would point out that the DPS has changed since the time of the incident. Consider suspending the licence for a period up to not exceeding 3 months, and also to revoke the licence. And it goes on to state that in deciding which of these powers to invoke, it is expected that the licensing authority should, as far as possible, seek to establish the cause or causes of the concerns that the representations identify. The remedial action taken should generally be directed at these causes and should always be no more than appropriate and proportionate response to address the causes of concern that instigated the review. Now, I would say at this point, also you'll see within Appendix 8, the legal advisor for the premises licence holder has also highlighted 11.23. Where licensing authorities should also note that modifications of conditions in exclusions of licensable activities may be imposed either permanently or for a temporary period of up to 3 months. Temporary changes or suspension of the licence for up to 3 months could impact on the business holding the licence financially and would only be expected to be pursued as an appropriate means of promoting the licensing objectives or preventing illegal working. It then goes on to give an example. For instance, a licence could be suspended for a weekend as a means of deterring the holder from allowing the problems that gave rise to the review to happening again. However, it will always be important that any detrimental financial impact that may result from a licensing authority's decision is appropriate and proportionate to the promotion of the licensing objectives and the prevention of illegal working in premises. But where premises are found to be trading irresponsibly, the licensing authority should not hesitate, where appropriate to do so, to take tough action to tackle the problems at the premises and where other measures are deemed insufficient to revoke the licence. Returning back to the report, the statutory guidance highlights that there's certain criminal activity that may arise in connected with licensed premises which should be treated particularly seriously. They're the use of the licensed premises for the illegal purchase and consumption of alcohol by minors, which impacts on the health, educational attainment, employment prospects and propensity for crime of young people. And it is envisaged that the licensing authorities, police, Home Office and other law enforcement agencies which are responsible authorities will use the review procedures effectively to deter such activities and crime. Where reviews arise and the licensing authority determines that the crime prevention objective is being undermined through the premises to be used to further crimes, it is expected that the revocation of the licence, even in the first instance, should be seriously considered. The report sets out the other options and financial implications of the potential financial implications of the panel's decision. And just to lead the panel through the appendices, as I say, Appendix 1 is the application to review the premises. Appendix 2 is the current premises licence and premises plan. We go to Appendix 3, which is pictures of the shop to give the panel some context of the type of premises that they're looking at. The first picture is obviously a front view of the store. The second view is just inside the store, and the panel will see that there's a Challenge 25 notice displayed on the window to the store. The next one is a picture of the counter. Again, there's a further Challenge 25 notice there. The next one is to the right of the counter, showing alcohol display. Then the next one is from the counter to the CCTV screens, which are opposite the serving counter. There's further pictures of the alcohol displays down the left-hand aisle as you look from the door. And then finally, a picture of the right-hand aisle, which doesn't have any alcohol displayed on that side. Then within the report, you have the supporting information from Trading Standards. You also have the representations made by Sussex Police. We then have the suggested conditions at Appendix 6 from the police and from West Sussex Public Health. The panel will probably already noted that the West Sussex County Council Public Health suggested conditions are very similar to the suggested conditions within the police schedule. And we have Appendix 7, which is the representations from West Sussex County Council Public Health. And finally, Appendix 8, which has been forwarded to the panel, of the supporting evidence from the premises licence holder with regard to this review. That's the matter before the panel this afternoon, and I'm available to answer any of the panel's questions in respect of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. If we start with Mr. Aston, do you have any questions to address Mr. Bryan?
Yes, just one question, Mr. Bryan. I sent you some amendments to the licence conditions yesterday with regards to the police.
That was in respect of the earlier application,
Okay,
the one we heard this morning.
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you very much. Mr. Patel, your representative, do you have any questions to address Mr. Bryan?
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. If we can now go on to a statement from Mr. Aston, West Sussex County Council Trading Standards representative.
West Sussex County Council Trading Standards has instigated the standard review of premise licence under Section 51 of the Licensing Act, and we respectfully invite the Licensing Authority Committee to review.
Thank you.
We respectfully invite the Licensing Authority Committee to review the premise licence of Londy's Mini Supermarket, 65 Lingfield Road, and determine if it is appropriate to revoke or suspend the licence, invoke specific conditions to the current licence, or remove the DPS. Trading Standards believe the premises is undermining the licensing objectives regarding the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm. Trading Standards' purpose for making the review application is to ensure breaches of the relevant legislation are brought to the attention of the Licensing Committee in order for them to consider the matter fully and consider available options. As the committee are aware, in October 2021, West Sussex County Council issued a press release warning businesses there will be a county-wide crackdown on underage sales following a previous test purchase operation, where 9 out of 16 shops tested sold alcohol and cigarettes to children. There's also been significant press coverage about the impact of our work across a wide range of media relating to many licensed premises across the county. Specifically in Mid-Sussex, they include Air Food and Wine in Burgess Hill, who received a 2-month suspension, K&A Enterprise Hayward Heath, whose licence was revoked. There's also been a number of revocations linked to underage sales of children, but they involve other criminal activity, and these have subsequently not been reported upon. Unfortunately, the sale of restricted products to children, particularly vapes, has continued, and we took the decision in January 2022 to instigate a zero tolerance policy in respect of the sale of alcohol to children. In short, this states West Sussex Trading Standards has a zero tolerance to the sale of alcohol to children, and where we have sufficient evidence to show this has taken place, we will seek a review of the business's alcohol licence with the aim of having the licence suspended or revoked, unless there are exceptional circumstances. The seller and business will be subject to enforcement action in line with our published enforcement policy. This approach will be following the business having been fully advised previously by a personal visit with the owner or director, and the advice followed up in writing. As part of this policy, we agreed that the following steps would be taken. That we'd engage with the alcohol licence review process to assist in tackling the illegal supply of tobacco, alcohol and vape and other restricted products to children. Conduct intelligence-led test purchasing operations. In my experience, this intel usually comes directly or indirectly from concerned parents, residents, school teachers and the police or affected business in your community. And as part of our approach, all reported instances are followed up. We give robust advice to businesses who are reported to us as selling age-restricted products to children, and we take appropriate and proportionate enforcement action. This policy is also reflected in our Trading Standards published enforcement policy. Unfortunately, and frustratingly, intelligence reports to Trading Standards of business selling restricted products in mid-Sussex and across the county to children appears to have escalated, despite the efforts of Trading Standards and the police. This is having a significant impact on the resources as well as Mid-Sussex District Council's own resources. As the committee will be aware, the illegal sales of vapes to children is of particular concern, with new evidence coming to light that exposure to chemicals found in some vapes can affect the central nervous systems and brain development in children. Also, members may have seen Panorama a few weeks ago, which focused on the effect of vaping was having on children. In respect of this specific matter, in June 2022, the responsible authority received intelligence alleging Londis was selling vapes to individuals under the age of 18. The intelligence was received by the police, and they recorded that they attended due to a report of vapes being sold to school children aged 13 to 14. They gave advice to the shop worker in the store and also contacted the store manager and made him aware they would be contacting the licensing regarding this report, and reported that the manager would be re-educating his staff. Under the Children and Families Act 2014, it is a criminal offence to sell a nicotine inhaling product, that is a vape, to a person under the age of 18. Following this information, on the 5th of August 2022, a Trading Standards officer from the responsible authority conducted an advice visit by appointment in relation to selling age-restricted products. The Trading Standards officer spoke to one of the partners of the business, Mr. Patel, Bharat Patel. Several points around age-restricted products and training were discussed during the visit with Mr. Patel. He was specifically advised that a test purchase would be made, and if they failed, that alcohol licence could be revoked. On the 8th of August 2022, a follow-up advice visit, which reiterated that advice, was discussed and sent to Mr. Patel. This also set out our zero tolerance policy and also warned again that selling restricted products would result in a suspension or revocation, or could result in a suspension or revocation. On the 8th of February, as part of an underage sales operation, the responsible authority were carrying out that day, a 17-year-old volunteer under the instruction and supervision of the responsible authority entered Londis. The child volunteer selected one bottle of blue WKD cocktails and took it to the till. A male working behind the till area, sold the bottle of blue WKD cocktails to the child volunteer without asking them for any identification. After securing the bottle of WKD, as evidence, Trading Standards officers immediately returned to the shop to explain to the seller about the test purchase and take all the necessary and relevant information to instigate an investigation. Under caution, the seller, who was Bharat Patel, stated the volunteer looked 19 or 20 years old. The seller explained that he was distracted by the energy bill he received and that he had not been recently trained, but reads articles online. However, he does train all the other employees. He was asked about Think 25 policy and explained what it means and what they were trained on this policy. He also explained the alcohol was sold to the underage volunteer because his attention was on the energy bill he received. Further questions were put by the responsible authority to a representative of the partnership. Bharat Patel responded to the questions that were put forward, and he explained again that the sale of the alcohol was due to the attention of the energy bill he received. All training is done verbally to all shop employees, but there is no written record of any training. Mr Patel, I believe, runs a second business and is the DPS of Ennis Londis at Felbridge, East Grinstead. Under section 146 of the Licensing Act, it is a criminal offence to sell alcohol to a child under the age of 18 years old. And it is contended the sale of alcohol to an underage person in the circumstances outlined is a breach of the licensing objective, the protection of children from harm. The licensee has failed in their responsibilities to promote the licensing objective. In considering a review of this premise licence, the committee are reminded that the second licensing objective, prevention of crime and disorder, has also been failed by the commission of the criminal offences that took place on the 8th of February 2023. In view of the sale of alcohol to a child, the responsible authority do not believe the licensing objectives are being continually upheld at Londis, and deem it both proportionate and necessary to invite the committee to consider a review of the premise licence, to limit further criminal activity by this licence holder, and to act as a deterrent to other operators considering such illegal conduct. I'd now like to draw your attention to some points of the statutory guidance, which states, the Local Government Councillor's Handbook, which states the primary purpose of a review is to act as a deterrent to prevent further breaches. It can also prevent any licensable activities which are causing concern from happening in future. The purpose of a prosecution is punitive, and for licensing offences, a review with the threat of revocation or suspension can often be more of a deterrent. Further reasoning in bringing the review is regards to the statutory guidance. On the protection of children from harm, the guidance makes the following points. 2.27, the protection of children from harm includes the protection of children from moral, physiological and physical harm. This includes not only protecting children from the harms associated directly with alcohol consumption, but wider harms. Licensing authorities must also consider the need to protect children from sexual exploitation when undertaking the licensing functions. 2.28, the government believes that this is completely unacceptable to sell alcohol to children. 2.34, licensing authorities should give considerable weight to representations about child protection matters. 11.10, where authorised persons and responsible authorities have concerns about problems identified at premises, it is good practice for them to give licence holders early warning of their concerns and the need for improvement. And where possible, they should advise the licence holder of the steps they need to take to address those concerns, which Trading Standards did in this case by way of a visit by appointment with the manager and subsequently followed up in writing. A failure by the licence holder to respond to such warnings is expected to lead to a decision to apply for a review. On reviews arising in connection with crime, the guidance makes these points. 11.27, there is certain criminal activity that may arise in connection with licensed premises which should be treated particularly seriously. These are the use of the licensed premises for the illegal purchase and consumption of alcohol by minors, which impacts on the health, education, attainment, employment prospects and propensity for crime of young people. 11.28, it is envisaged that the licensing authorities, the police, Home Office and other law enforcement agencies which are responsible authorities will use the review procedures effectively to deter such activities and crime. Where reviews arise and the licensing authority determines that the crime prevention objective is being undermined through the premises being used to further crimes, it is expected that revocation of the licence, even in the first instance, should be seriously considered. Training standards therefore believe a suspension of the licence will provide an opportunity to properly retrain the staff and ensure documented procedures are put in place. Aside from the need to address training and procedures at the store, there must be some sanction for selling age-restricted products, including alcohol, to children. And we believe a 3-month suspension is a proportionate outcome in the circumstances. Further, it may also serve as a clear deterrent for other businesses who continue to sell age-restricted products to children in Mid Sussex. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aston. Mr. Brown, have you any questions?
No, I haven't.
Okay, Mr. Patel's representative, have you any questions? I'm sorry, panel, I was meant to ask you if you had any questions for Mr. Bryant.
Not for Mr.
No,
Bryant.
okay. Councillor Kennedy, have you any questions for Mr. Aston?
Just a couple, yeah. I've not seen anything in the paperwork, Mr. Aston, about whether there was a prosecution or not. I assume there wasn't.
In respect of the...
Of this incident, yeah.
This incident, the matter is still under investigation.
The incident in February is still under investigation?
Yeah, sorry, it's not, I mean, and it's not the intention that this to prosecute this case.
Why is that?
Well, we have to, be guided by our enforcement policy, and we have a process that we go, which is through a stepped approach in regards to all prosecutions. So that may be, an outcome could be a warning letter, for example, or we could move to a simple caution if the offence was admitted, or we could consider a prosecution.
Okay. But when did you, it is your initiative to bring this matter before the panel. It's now over 6 months since this happened. Why has it taken so long?
Actually, I can answer that question. Actually, we undertook a test purchase operation on this day in February, and out of the 8 premises that we tested, 7 of them sold alcohol to children or vapes. So obviously, it's been a considerable sort of implication on our sort of workload, and what we have been doing, which has sort of extended this matter, is that in the part we undertake a proper investigation. So we have the opportunity, give the opportunity for the licence holder to be questioned under caution and to provide answers in regards to the criminal matter, which has been the offence of selling alcohol to the child.
Yes?
Sorry?
Well, it's still quite a long time.
Yes, yeah, I'm not disputing that.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Councillor Mead, any questions? No. Mr. Aston, so when the incident occurred about selling alcohol to the underage, was there a refusal log available to view?
Sorry, I'll have to look at my...
I just wanted verified.
Sorry, I
believe,
haven't got the...
No, I know you've...
I've got all
this
the...
is the second case. I believe it was not available to be viewed. I believe that's what I've read, the refusal log.
Sorry, it's contained within the bundle of evidence.
Exactly, nor was the training log visible. Now, I do have a question. Because of the incident, this is off-piece. This is a little bit selling of vapes. I'm very interested that seems to be a growing concern about selling vapes to underage. And I'm just wondering when the standards body are going to address this as a serious concern.
Well, yes, it is off the wall a little bit. We are actually trying to deal with this, and we are using this process. I mean, in this instance, the matter, related to the sale of vapes in the first place to children, and we took action to undertake a test purchase of alcohol. And then we felt that we could, bring it to the attention of the you yourselves. There is a lot of work being done nationally with regards to vapes, and if you follow the news, the government, there's been a call of evidence, and the government is looking to sort of ban the increased use of vapes. We're working with our public health colleagues to address the problem in schools, but it is an absolutely massive problem, and as you will be aware, and we just have not had the resources to deal with it.
That's right. It's a resource-led, all right, but it's on the cards anyway. Thank you very much. Okay, I think we now ask Mr. Patel's representative to present your case, please.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. Mr. and Mrs. Patel here, husband and wife, they have been trading at Lingfield Road for the past 9 years or so with their family members also involved in the running of the shop. And as you heard earlier on, they also operate in other premises within East Grinstead at the Parade and have operated that for some 12 years or so. The other shop is about twice the size of the Lingfield Road shop. So a combination of 21 years trading with alcohol and age-restricted products with no problems whatsoever, exemplary record. You will see on page 2 of our evidence bundle that we've submitted, which is Appendix 8, I believe, a copy of a letter from Camelot. That letter dated August 22 that confirms the premises were successful in a test purchase operation carried out by Camelot. This is evidence really that the premises do operate a challenge policy and do pass test purchases. Unfortunately, they didn't pass this test purchase in August, which, as Councillor Kennedy said, was some 6.5 months ago. It is acknowledged that there was a failed test purchase. The volunteer was 17 years of age plus. Test purchase operatives are normally younger than that. Needless to say, she was under the age of 18. You haven't had any photographs presented by trading standards of the individual involved. Sometimes trading standards do provide photographs to committee of the test purchase operative, but I'm led to believe by Mr. Patel she did indeed look, was dressed to look 18 or over. Mr. Patel is deeply sorry, apologises for this matter, but as is in the evidence and as was said on the day, his mind was focused on an energy bill that he had received more or less about 10 minutes, or he'd opened it about 10 minutes before the test purchase operation. On page 3 of our evidence bundle, you will see a copy of electric bill that is dated at the top the 30th of January 2023. That bill covers the period of 25th of December to the 26th of January 23, so a 1 month period, and that bill is for £2,813.07. So on the day of the test purchase, he received the bill that is on page 4 of the bundle, and you'll see that that bill is dated the 1st of February, but is for the same period. And you'll note that the account numbers are the same, everything is the same on that invoice to the one that was dated 30th of January, albeit this bill was for £7,793.41. So nearly £7,800. That equates to £244 a day. And hopefully you'll understand if you had a bill for just shy of £8,000 for 1 month's electricity usage, I think you would probably feel that why on earth have I received this? I know if I'd opened that, I think my mind would be, I need to phone British Gas, I need to sort this out. What's going on here? I've just had a bill 2 days ago, now I'm landed with another one that's just shy of £8,000. What's going on here? So his mind was elsewhere. As he stated on the day, it wasn't a story that was made up, and that's the evidence to prove that. I am pleased to say that British Gas have since rectified that problem. Also within the evidence is a copy of the Essentials of Alcohol training book. This is a training book, and I've got some real copies if you'd like a copy. This is a training record that's produced by Highfield. They're a recognised awarding body, and these workbooks are both for This one is particularly for the off-trade, but they do one for the on-trade as well. And most authorities are accepting these. Police certainly accept this as a form of basic training really for staff members. And what happens is the staff member will work through the book. There are some little tests in there as well. And then importantly at the end on page 12, there is a little quiz that the employee fills out. The employee then signs the declaration on the reverse page on page 13, and then that page is detached and it's retained with the staff records. And we've provided a copy of the staff records for this store within our evidence bundle. And that is in place now for both shops as well. So it's not just for this one, it's in both shops. Trading Standards did say in their presentation to you that they did have concerns with this premises and did allude to vapes for about 5 minutes. There have been no problems with vapes at this shop. The letter that was sent in 2022 was for a concern that vapes may have been sold. There was no evidence to suggest that the vapes were being sold to minors at this premises. So I'd ask you to discount any evidence in relation to vapes. We're here today purely because there was a failed sale of alcohol, not that, that there was a sale of a vape. I'm surprised at some of the points raised within the police representation. They say there was no train records, no DPS authorisation form. Well, the DPS authorisation form is not a legal requirement. It is a legal requirement that the DPS authorises staff, and it's highly recommended that there is a authorisation form there, but it's not a legal requirement. They also say that there's no signage advertising the challenge verification policy, but you can clearly see now within your report at pages 29, 30 and 32, you can clearly see that there are challenge 25 posters on display, and indeed 2 of those notices certainly were on display when the police officer attended. He just requested there be a further one displayed, and Mr. Patel immediately put one of those in place. So they've always been on display. The pictures, which are very useful, the photographs, also show a photograph at the bottom of page 31 of 16 CCTV images. There are in fact 32 cameras covering that store, inside and outside. The police representation says only management were able to operate the CCTV system, not the staff. That's complying with the Data Protection Act. You can't simply have every member of staff meddling with the CCTV system. So it's correct that really management should be the ones that can operate the CCTV system. Both the trading standards, the police and the child health people are asking for a 3-month suspension. And they say that that's one of the reasons for a 3-month suspension is to give the premises time to train the staff. We would say these premises have been operating since the failed test purchases for 6.5 months. They have retrained their staff. They've introduced the Essentials of Alcohol workbook. We feel that they've probably done more than enough to retrain their staff, and that a suspension in this case would not be appropriate. I think had trading standards probably gone in again and done another test purchase and there'd been a second failed test purchase, I think it'd be a different story altogether. In fact, I think if they'd gone in again, they wouldn't have had a second failed test purchase. I think they would have passed. The letter from Camelot does evidence the fact that the training is there and the training does work. I have included some sections of the 182 guidance on pages 44 and 45 of our evidence, and a couple of those paragraphs are reflected in the officer's report, and simply include those really for ease of reference. I'm sure you're aware of those sections, but it's just, I just thought I'd normally put them in there just to make it easy for you to find the sections that are referred to when you go out to deliberate. I think any suspension, no matter how long in this instance, would be a financial punishment and nothing else. The training is in place, everything's in place, and it seems to have been working for 6.5 months. Indeed, it seems to have been working for 9 years at these premises. So I think by suspending the licence, there would be nothing gained, and they certainly wouldn't be, a suspension wouldn't promote the licence objectives. It would certainly be contrary to 1120, and 1120 is on page 45. And as your officer said, 1120 says the remedial action taken should generally be directed at these causes and should be always no more than an appropriate and proportionate response to address the causes of concern that instigated the review. And I think history of 9 years at one premises, 12 at another, and 6.5 months since this incident would show that the licence objectives are being addressed. I'd also like to remind you of the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act. This defines persistent selling of alcohol to persons under the age of 18 if the alcohol is sold on 2 or more occasions in a 3-month period. So we're not talking even of persistent sales of alcohol to minors here, as defined in the Police and Reform Social Responsibility Act. Under that Act, if a premises does fail a test purchase twice in a 3-month period, then the premises can be offered a closure notice from between 2 days and 14 days. So if the premises fails 2 test purchases in a 3-month period, instead of as an alternative to a criminal prosecution, they can be offered a closure notice between 2 and 14 days. So that is under the Police and Reform Social Responsibility Act. What you're being asked here is to suspend this licence for 3 months for 1 failed test purchase. And that 1 failed test purchase has reasons behind it, which we've shown you with the energy bill. And it does say within the Police Reform Social Responsibility Act that the closure period is for remedial action to be taken by the premises licence holder. We would suggest here that there's no remedial action to be taken now, because it indeed has been taken, put in place, as I've said earlier. We're not aware that any further test purchase operations have taken place, and I would hope if some had taken place, we would have had a letter similar to Camelot to say, congratulations, you had a test purchase, you passed. So we're not aware that any further test purchase operations have taken place. As you heard, Mr. Patel wasn't issued with a fixed penalty notice. Normally, if there's a failed test purchase, fixed penalty notice for £90 can be issued straight away to the seller. That didn't happen, and as you just heard, no further action is being taken in this matter. So we requested a 3-month suspension for what was really a mistake. Mr. Patel is humbly sorry for and apologises, not in line with the period that could have been offered if this was being dealt with under the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act. The police are asking for conditions to be changed within their representation, and we would say there is no need for you to change these conditions. The proposed conditions by the police appear to be standard conditions, looking at how they've been drafted and listed within their representation, and they've not been tailored for these premises. There has been no consultation with the premises licence holder, whether these conditions are suitable and whether they need changing. Why do I say they're probably standard conditions? The shop doesn't offer a delivery service. There's a whole raft of conditions in there for a delivery service. The premises, as I said, have run successfully for almost 10 years now with no issues, and they've operated another shop as well for almost 12 years with no issues. and no concerns. They've never been before you before. So that would suggest that the conditions that are in place work. There is no need to fix something that isn't broke. Section 182 guidance at 9.43, and there is a copy of that on page 44 of our evidence, does state that your determination must be evidence-based. There is no evidence to suggest that the conditions should be changed. This is for the road review that's in front of you is for a failed test purchase only, nothing else. Also, 1120 of the 182 guidance, a copy of that is on page 45, says that remedial action should be taken generally directed at the causes and should be no more appropriate. So again, the cause of the review is this failed test purchase, so no evidence really that the conditions need to be amended. So really, you have the evidence from, the evidence before you really is Mr. and Mrs. Patel have operated this shop for 10 years nearly, no problems. Another shop for 12 years, no problems. One mistake was made. You've had the reason for that mistake, opening that electricity bill for just shy of £8,000 days after he'd received one that was correct. You've got the evidence from Camelot to say that they do operate a challenge policy because they passed their test purchase when Camelot came in. They are very serious about upholding their licence and objectives. They do put the training in. They are sorry again for this matter. I would urge you in this instance to issue a formal warning against the premises. I think to do anything further would be punitive. I don't think by suspending the licence we couldn't do anything other in that period of suspension that is in place now. Mr. and Mrs. Bratt are happy to answer any questions, as am I. If you need anything clearing up, we just ask you to issue a warning, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Aston, do you have any questions?
No, Chair, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Bryan, have you any questions?
No, Chair.
Now I go to my panel. So if we start with Councillor Kennedy, do you have any questions?
Yes, Chair, I do. Mr. King, you said that your clients had an exemplary record at one stage of your address.
Yeah.
It seems that when the police visited, the designated premises supervisor wasn't on site at the time of the visit, and hadn't been at the premises for some years. I know you said that the DPS authorisation forms are not required, not a legal requirement, but surely something should have been filled in by the DPS to give authorisation to people to sell alcohol. That hadn't happened.
On the date, it's not a legal requirement to have that
No.
authorisation, and I accept that it is good practice. Certainly good practice is in place now. The DPS at the time is Mr. Patel's auntie, who had a knee operation. She was having a knee operation. She does live next door to the shop, but she was not available purely because of that. Since within weeks of the failed test purchase operation, there was a variation of DPS. Mrs. Patel became the DPS at the premises, and as a result of that, the authorisation form was put in place, which you have a copy of in our evidence pack. CCTV, I've gone through that, why the staff can't use that as data protection. It's got to be management really that can play with that. Data protection, as the data protection officer can only be the person that authorises who can use that CCTV. If every member of staff could play with the CCTV, they could turn it off, they could do anything with it. Signage, as you've seen in the photographs, is there. Training records are now in place. they were done verbally at the time. Now, there's nothing wrong with verbal training. Maybe they should have written a log to say the verbal training was carried out on such and such a date. But I think more often than not, sometimes you can enforce training better by telling people what to do, rather than them doing it in a book or online. Certainly we do personal licence holders training both via e-learning and face-to-face, and I think people that attend a face-to-face course learn a lot more than they do if they do e-learning. The refusals record was on the till, I believe, at the time.
Yeah, on the till of the time.
But it is written now, and you've got evidence of that written refusals record, which is in within our bundle. So the 5 points that the police have made within their representation, I think we, if they weren't in place then, they certainly are clearly in place now.
I mean, that's what strikes me. But for the Trading Standards visit, a lot of this just wouldn't have happened.
But we're here today for a failed test purchase.
Indeed.
And not having a DPS authorisation form, not having the refusal record, not having that, we have not had a failed test purchase in 9 years here.
But you've had one now, and it's revealed
We've had one now.
some shortcomings, to be fair.
Yeah. I'll not put my hands up to that, but I think if, and I think your licensing officer will probably verify, if you go and do a licensing inspection to premises, you'll probably find that some things aren't in place that should be in place. Doesn't mean they're operating irresponsibly.
No. Having them in place shows that you are acting responsibly.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And they are in place now.
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions, Councillor Leah?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. On your statement there, you've just said that Mr. Barra at the time was distracted because of the energy bill. Now, looking at the bills, it looks like it's a bill that is being carried forward. So on 30th of January, bill dated, so that's a bill for 2,490. And then on the following month, that bill was carried forward as well. So I'm interested to know, what was the bill the previous month? Now, was it similar for him to be in a big shock?
It's about 2,000.
No, this bill is for 16 January, this already paid. And this bill coming for this month.
You have £2,490.
That's for the previous one. So the previous month was 2,490.
Then you've got 2,600 and a penny, which is the outstanding balance on the bill 1st of February 2023. So what was the previous one? Was it similar? So the bill was similar to this, Mr.
It's
Barra?
like 2,500, 2,000, until like that.
It was quite similar.
Yeah,
then.
quite similar, that one, yeah,
Thank you.
quite similar.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
The refusal log, you said was kept electronically
Was that time until until prompts, when we scan any age restriction product and we refuse, they recorded it until.
Okay.
Inside the
So
system.
so now, you are now doing a proper
Yeah,
refusal book?
proper book, I got now.
Okay.
Copies of it are on pages six
I have
to
seen
9
it.
of your
It's
evidence.
handwritten, I've seen
Yeah,
that.
like
Yes.
this now.
Yes, I've seen it, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I am planned from March, this incident happened after this licensing officer visited our store and he explained, like, you need to put this one also, and I started from March this.
Okay, that's very good. So the instruction book, the exercise book that you showed, that a staff member will fill that exercise book in.
They'll
So
fill the
who
quiz in at
actually-
the end, yes.
And how often would they do this, and who would actually vet the responses and knowing that they've done it?
I think Bharat has done those as a personal licence holder. So Bharat also holds a personal licence and he's DPS at the other shop, so he signed all those off.
Yeah,
I think, haven't you?
So your DPS at your shop, your other shop, and,
I am DPS my other shop, and this shop DPS my wife now.
okay, Mrs.
Was my
Barat,
auntie.
are you quite experienced in this sort of DPS, or is this a new role for you?
No, I just experience, yeah, I got experience before because I worked with business. That's why I know
Okay.
what's the rules for that.
Okay, thank you very much. What amount of your business is derived from selling alcohol?
Around 10% of my total sale.
10% of your total sales? Okay. I think that's probably all the questions I have. Mr. Aston, I think it's your opportunity to sum up.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. The responsible authorities still contend that the sale of alcohol by this premise, in the circumstances outlined in my report, is a breach of the licensing objectives, and the premises have failed in its responsibilities to protect children from harm. In considering a review of this premises, the committee are also reminded of the second licensing objective with regards to the prevention of crime and disorder, which has been failed by the commission of the criminal offence outlined. I would understand the Licence Committee has some sympathy with Mr Patel in regard to his energy bill, but the premise licence holder has a higher duty to ensure the licensing objectives are upheld, and therefore he should be setting an example to other staff. Therefore, as underage prevention advice had been provided to the seller, Mr Patel, before he sold alcohol to the child volunteer, and previously by the police, the responsible authorities suggest an appropriate outcome of the review would be a 3-month suspension of the licence, which would be both consistent and proportionate in line with other small businesses that have come before this committee recently. I'd also like to suggest some slight amendments to the police conditions. Unfortunately, there's been a bit of communication error there. They're only minor changes to the conditions 6 and 7 that put forward by the police. Just really to amend that to say attempting to buy alcohol or any other age-restricted product. Engage in selling alcohol or any other age-restricted product. The challenge 25 should be indicated. The responsible authority believe this would send out a strong message across the Mid-Sussex and the county that where premises are found to be undermining the licensing objectives, particularly about child protection matters, robust sanctions are administered. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ashton, would you just repeat again that particular condition you wish to add?
Yeah,
For me,
the
please?
police put forward in their suggestions 6, well, it's 6 and 7, but on this particular one, it's 6 and 6. It should be 7. The premises will operate a Challenge 25 policy whereby any person attempting to buy alcohol or any other age-restricted product who appears to be under 25 will be asked for photographic ID to prove their age. The premise licence holder shall ensure that all staff members, including family members, friends and people who are helping out or on a casual or informal basis, engaged or to be engaged in selling alcohol or any other age-restricted product at the premises shall receive induction training. This training will take place prior to the selling of such products.
Thank you.
I've got that in writing if it helps.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. I think you're supposed to
So what will happen now is I will retire with the chair and other councillors to consider our decision and the reasons. If we can come to that decision today, then we will share that with you, and reasons as well, but reasons may follow with our notification. Worst case scenario, within the next 5 working days, you will receive the decision and reasons in writing to confirm the outcome. There is a 21-day appeal window following receipt of that decision, in which not just the premises licence holder, but any other responsible authority can lay their appeal with the magistrates, and that matter will be heard in due course. Unless you have any burning questions at the moment, I'll retire with the committee and we will discuss the matter. Please feel free to stay within the confines of the room, or I believe that you're free to retire outside and we will find you should we make a decision. Approximately half an hour to 45 minutes is my guess, but go from there. If you need anything, please ask the staff and they'll happily assist you.
Did you want a copy of that?
Okay. The panel have considered the case carefully. You may have been momentarily distracted, but that does not justify your failure to uphold the promotion of the licensing objective to protect minors. You must separate the distress of running a business and the obligation to uphold the conditions of your license. Within the last 6 months, we are satisfied that you and your staff have implemented the conditions of your license. Police and public health have suggested an amendment to the conditions. We accept the current conditions of your license are sufficient, if implemented, to address the promotion of the license objectives, protect minors, and prevent crime and disorder. In this case, we believe a formal warning is sufficient. Thank you, everybody.